Brian, I would imagine that one of the most common questions that you get from potential clients is, can I retire?
Right. That is probably the primary question I get in financial planning. But what's interesting is a lot of people, especially where I live, they made their money in real estate. And most people that have a job or a business really think about, okay, I'm going to retire when I'm 65, or I'm going to retire at a certain point in time, or when I sell it. Real estate people, landlords, don't necessarily have that kind of epiphany of a particular date. They just keep owning real estate. And I don't know too many accountants, well, I actually do know a lot of accountants that work into their 80s, but most people, you know, if they work at Boeing or someplace else, they have a retirement age somewhere in their 60s or 50s. Landlords, though, they'll just hang on over and over and over. So a lot of people are starting to come to me, especially with the baby boomers aging, going, you know, do I have to work forever? I'm a landlord. Just because I'm a landlord, do I really have to work forever? So they're starting to have kind of a paradigm shift to where maybe life isn't about how much I can make, you know, fixing toilets and all this stuff for the rest of my life. Maybe I want more free time and less stress, and I have to start thinking about my legacy, you know, my legacy plan, who's going to manage this property if I'm not around anymore. So yeah, it's a particularly different question for people that own real estate. So I wanted to talk today about retiring from being a landlord.
So Brian, can you expand on that? How can you retire from being a landlord? What is the strategy here?
Yeah, because a lot of people, they really struggle with that, because it's like, well, it's not that bad, although I haven't taken a trip in 6 years, but, you know, and my wife wants me to spend more time doing something else, and my properties are getting older and so forth. So, you know, there's a lot of reasons. Now, one of the interesting things that I've come across with people is I'll say, well, what's your rate of return on your real estate? What are your rents? And I'll say, oh, I make 15%. No, you don't. If it's 15% of its fair market value, everybody would buy it because it's too cheap. And so they don't really realize that they're only making 1 to 3% on the fair market value of their properties after expenses. So that's another piece of the pie, that they could improve on that and not have to be a landlord the rest of their life. So it's a tough decision-making thing. It's the decision on when to retire and not to retire. But with real estate, again, landlords, they struggle with a little extra problem related to that.
Brian, what are some of the disadvantages to using passive real estate?
Well, obviously, being an active real estate owner, you got to be the landlord, and some people don't mind that. They like fixing toilets and doing all that stuff. But I think a big problem with that is deferred maintenance. If you've owned a property for a long time, every once in a while, because I'll ask people, well, what do you earn on this? Well, my rents are X, my expenses are Y. Oh, according to your tax return, they aren't. Oh yeah, I had to replace the roof last year. What about the year before that? Oh yeah, we had water damage. How about the year before? Oh yeah, there's always these things that come up that are unexpected. So deferred maintenance is a tough one. But one of the advantages of owning active real estate is sometimes you have a better rate of return. And that's because you still have a job. Generally, when you work, you have a better rate of return.
Brian, can you give me an example of someone that you've taken from being an active landlord to a passive landlord?
Yeah, I remember I was giving a seminar, and this guy was, well, you know, I could do a lot better than those passive real estate. I make the 15%. That was that guy. And I said, really, 15%? 15% based on what? Well, my rent's divided by what I paid for the place 30 years ago. I said, well, that's not how you compute it. You take your rents minus your expenses divided by what it's worth today. What's your rate of return now? And we worked him down to, well, it's probably about 2%. Okay, so he was comparing passive real estate returns to his 15% miscalculation when he should have been comparing it to 2%. And I kind of was looking at him. He was about 75, 80 years old, maybe 150 pounds overweight, didn't look in very good shape. So I kind of thought, maybe you ought to consider not trying to be the richest guy in the graveyard. Maybe it's time for you to think about passive real estate, retiring from being a landlord. And by the end of that, he was like totally on board. He said, yeah, it is what I need to do. I had this all wrong.
Great information, Brian. Thanks for that.
You got it.